Donald Trump engaged in deceptive business practices and tremendous fraud. Donald Trump falsely, knowingly, inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself, his family, and to cheat the system. Donald Trump and the other defendants were ordered to pay $463.9 million. That represents $363.9 million in disgorgement, plus $100 million in interest, which will continue to increase every single day until it is paid.
A few moments later.
Breaking news now on President Trump's New York criminal trial. An appeals court has just thrown out the massive civil fraud penalty levied against the president by New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Trump quite properly said, this lady campaigned when she ran for Attorney General. She's going to get me. She tried to get me. This is no way for the justice system to run. Federal prosecutors in Albany have subpoenaed the files of Letitia James to see if this case was brought in bad faith. If it was brought in bad faith, meaning because they hate him or they dislike him politically.
This is extremely breaking news about the fact that the New York appeals court threw out the Trump civil fraud penalty. Now, those who may not know about this case, this is a big case. This is, you would call this Letitia James landmark case. She was able to get the court to throw down basically a $500 million civil fraud penalty against Donald Trump. Why? Due to the fact that she said, or at least the court admitted, that there was some kind of issues with him inflating his assets to score better loan and insurance deals. But it looks like the penalty was struck down. I didn't even watch this video yet, so I'm watching it with you. Let's check it out.
We're starting with the breaking news we ended last hour with. A New York appeals court has thrown out a massive civil fraud penalty against President Trump, a total that exceeded $500 million. They're calling that penalty excessive. Joining us now, NBC News legal Avalos and NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. Danny, break down this ruling for us.
Well, it's a lengthy ruling, and all the judges disagreed on their analysis, but they agreed on one final decision, which was that this judgment against Trump was a fine within the Eighth Amendment prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment and excessive fines. And in addition, it was punitive and it was excessive. That's really the conclusion. They concluded that because this was a punitive measure because there weren't any victims who were compensated. It was just a judgment against the company and against Trump. So the court here concluded, with a lot of disagreement among them, but did conclude that this was an excessive fine within the meaning of the Constitution's Eighth Amendment.
This is a big deal. I mean, anywhere Letitia James walked around, she wanted to talk about this case. And I guess at this point, this is a massive loss. This is something that Letitia James is going to be very, very, very upset about. So according to the ruling, they said two judges said that James was in her rights and Trump was liable. But they're saying that this fine was just too excessive, too much money. I think also two judges even wanted a retrial, citing some procedural issues. One judge even thought that the entire case should be tossed. So it's not like a bunch of people all agreed about this. But this is a massive, massive loss to Letitia James. She's said publicly, she is out to get Donald Trump. She don't believe Donald Trump is a legitimate president. She thinks Donald Trump is some kind of a dictator. You know, all the stuff that a lot of people on the left say. But this was her crown. This is like a crown achievement, that she was able to get a court to basically believe that, yes, Trump did inflate these values to try to get better loan deals and drop a ridiculously massive fine. And the fact that this fine has been revoked, she's tight. She got to be tight right now. I see a few people in the chat. Appreciate you guys coming through. Again, appreciate you guys here. I know it's last minute thing, but I couldn't believe it. And also I'm running outside and hanging out all day today, so I wanted to talk about this real quick. So let me finish the rest of this video.
And Danny, when you say that this was a lengthy ruling, we're talking to the tune of more than 300 pages. So we know that folks are going through it still. But Gary, give us a refresher of this case. Viewers are seeing on the screen from the time of the trial. How did we get here?
So you'll remember that Donald Trump was accused of kind of plussing up how much money he actually was worth and how much money the things he owned were actually worth. He tripled the size of his penthouse in documents to some of these financial lenders and brokers. You just can't do that. And he was given a $300 million fine that has been plussed to $500 million because of interest. And that was 11 months ago now. And so this is a very significant win for Donald Trump. And it's also for his sons, because it was paused for his sons as well. So the entire Trump family is impacted by this. But I do want to get to a point that Danny was talking about, how everyone sort of had different opinions when they released this opinion. The appeals court said, one of them said, you know, penalties are supposed to stop people from doing things. They're concerned these individuals will reoffend, and it's getting rid of the penalty. Perhaps not the best idea here.
And for viewers, I think it's important for us to remind them there were certain lawsuits that were against the Trump organization. This is one of the suits that falls in that category. And interestingly, Danny, it was brought by the Attorney General of New York, Tish James. And right now, you've sort of got this subplot happening where the Trump Department of Justice now has subpoenaed Tish James for basically the records related to this lawsuit. One of the promises that they made on the campaign trail was, okay, investigate the investigators. This is certainly an example of that. Abby Lowell, Tish James's attorney, said that this is blatant political retribution. But talk about...
Well, see, that's the issue with the mix between her being a lawyer, right, being a top cop, and her doing these speeches where she sounds like a politician, which is you are a politician, obviously, as an attorney general, you get voted. But when she's doing the rhetoric of trying to excite the base, the progressive base, by saying, I'm going to take down Donald Trump, I'm going to take down his kids. So now Donald Trump is saying, well, is this really based on the law or based on Letitia James' personal opinions about Donald Trump, either the man or the way he runs his businesses? Is it actually based on law, or there's bias there? So there is something there now to that extent. I mean, that's why the Department of Justice is even investigating Letitia James anyway, right? Obviously, and then we're not even talking about the allegations of mortgage fraud, wire fraud tied to her own finances, including the Brooklyn townhouse. And a lot of people obviously Trump supporters argue that this was an issue of political retaliation, right? So both of them are basically claiming the same thing. So the interesting thing, and I've been reading with this a couple of minutes, that the court still ruled that Trump committed fraud. So there's not like, when the case is thrown out, it's not thrown out completely. It's based on the fact that the fine is a bit excessive, not the fact that they overturned everything. So even though the money penalty was tossed, the court still froze some parts of the case and kept some of the non-monetary punishments in place, which I believe is they can't run a company for a few years or something like that, can be a CEO of a New York-based company, something along those lines. But the penalty is what the biggest, obstacle. Obviously, who wants to pay $500 million for anything, especially if it's based on the courts telling you to do so. So let me check out some comments real quick. I don't have that much time. I may have another 20 minutes, but I just want to kind of talk about this. I'll see some there. What's up, Dwayne? Appreciate you coming through. Pretty sure. I wasn't sure. I thought this was kind of, I mean, I know they was going to go back and forth, but I didn't know something was going to happen so soon. Tish is grinding her latte. Release the Trump-Stein files. I'm with you. I'm with you. Release the files. But we all know why they're not being released. We know why certain things are not being done. I am not in the position, or at least I know a lot of people who love Trump and love everything about him and can't find anything wrong about him. That's not me. Something happened. Very powerful people, left, right, were doing some inappropriate things and some terrible things. If it's the fact that this is so difficult to get files, to figure out what's going on, is a problem. But that's another video for another day. It's the curse of Donald. MSNBC doesn't like this at all. You know what? Listen, I don't think MSNBC is going to be around. Isn't there some news about them shutting down? I think let me check real quick. I think MSNBC is done, isn't it? Like, are they closed for business? I think they are. Yeah, they're changing their name to MS Now, which sounds, I don't know. Okay, MS Now is being spun off by MSC Universal into a new company. But yeah, a lot of changes. So, MS Now means My Source News Opinion World. I'm not making it up. My Source News Opinion World. That sounds great. The only time I watch MSC is when I'm checking out online. So Tish violated the 8th Amendment. Well, that's what the question is going to have to be talked about in terms of, I guess so, right? Because it's about excessive bail, excessive fines, cruel and unusual punishment. For billionaires to lose a couple of million. Is that? I mean, to me, if I lost $200 right now, it'd be cruel and unusual punishment. But I guess that you could say that point that it's possible that happened, and that's why they're going back and forth. There's definitely some kind of personal issue with each other. They definitely did some rebranding stuff, and that is strange. All right, so let me finish the rest of this. What's going on, Choose? But we'll just finish the rest of this video.
That bookend here that is new now that the administration is Trump's again.
There's no question this decision by the appellate division will embolden Trump and maybe the DOJ, but it's not really a true exoneration. What the court concluded, although the judges were somewhat fractured, very fractured, was that the defendants were liable. It's just that the punishment itself was excessive. Now, this may be a distinction without a difference to Trump's supporters, but it is an important point to be made. At least spiritually, Trump probably feels vindicated because certainly in all of our minds, I mean, being found liable, but having the actual penalty removed feels like a win. But the court did conclude that the liability determination was proper and that the Attorney General had the authority to bring this cause of action under the statute.
He's going to take this as a victory because why would anyone want to pay that much money? And second, this is probably going to aid the Department of Justice, basically that case where he believes that his rights were being infringed on a very aggressive, overly aggressive Attorney General. I believe that would probably help his case. So he's going to call it a victory. No, and Trump, when he'll take anything and move it and flip it to something that helps him entirely. So Letitia James is in all types of trouble. This is a big loss, whether she likes it or not. Yeah, they'll keep fighting or whatnot, but she still has to deal with the Federal Housing Agency for misrepresenting her residency status, trying to claim that Virginia home is her primary residence, inflating details about the Brooklyn townhouse, saying that it was or trying to lie about how many units were in the building in the first place. There's a lot of issues. And now, if you guys have been checking out Ed Martin, this is from the DOJ's Weaponization Working Group suggesting that Letitia James should resign. He's been checking out her place. They have been really, really aggressive, and they believe that she's been aggressive and then going after Trump. So this will be a back and forth situation here. Let me finish the rest and see if Letitia James has anything to say on this one.
That's such an important detail to underscore. Gary Grumbach and Danny Savalos, thank you for breaking all of this down in real time. It sounds like you've got some reading to do. We'll let you get to it.
Okay, looks like that's it. So I am surprised this happened. Usually these type of things land on a Friday, but I guess they were like, hey, let's check out what's going on here. Let me see if there's any other information that we can do. And I got to talk about the New York mayor stuff, but we're not gonna do that right now. Let me see what Fox News has to say about this.
Alert, a New York appeals court just this morning has thrown out President Donald Trump's massive civil fraud penalty. The decision from a 5-panel group in New York's appellate division changed the original decision that stood to cost Trump over $500 million. One appeals judge calling the lower court's penalty an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Oh, you got it right. 8th Amendment, excessive fines, excessive penalties. I guess they agreed. Well, they didn't. I guess the majority of them agreed, right?
You might remember that New York Attorney General Letitia James' office says despite this decision, they will not be dropping the case. Let's get some thoughts from Andy McCarthy. He's a former U.S. attorney. He is a Fox News contributor. He is on the phone with us. And last summer, You were helping us every single day as President Trump sat in that courtroom. Letitia James, the AG, she happened to be there as well. And at the time, I remember, Andy, you said that you thought this could be the outcome once the appellate court got a hold of it. What are your thoughts this morning?
Well, I think, Dana, that Trump may be ultimately completely exonerated on this. For now, the penalty goes. There was division in the appeals court about the merits of the underlying suit, but as you point out, what they found basically under an Eighth Amendment theory, that's the amendment that prohibits cruel and unusual punishments. There was such a mismatch between whatever wrong was actually established in the trial and the outrageous penalty that was imposed for it, which was, I think, $355 million, which with interest and other costs is already up to about $530 million now because it continued to accrue for a while. That was such a ridiculous mismatch between what the penalty was and whatever the wrong was that was established.
Yeah, I'm wondering, how did they come up with that figure? It just seems to me, what it looks like to me, especially coming from Letitia James, and how she wants to be governor. She wants to have bigger and more powerful positions, just spending as much time checking out her stuff, checking out her past. She's an extremely aggressive and ambitious person. This was going to be the case. You know, Fonnie Willis is supposed to do this, right? Fonnie Willis wanted to go after Trump based on election stuff, but she destroyed that by messing around with other, obviously, co-workers and just being a terrible AG herself. This is what you want as a prosecutor. You want the landmark case, going after someone really, really powerful and taking them down, so you can use that as a leverage to get to higher seats and higher positions in government. And so this is what she wanted. And to say, hey, I took $500 million from this guy, is something that she can go and talk about, and people will remember her for and try to give her, I guess, those kind of positions that she's looking for.
That had to go. The court is leaving in place some other what they call injunctive rulings that were made by the court. So some things have to be sorted out, like how much monitoring Trump's organization is going to be under. But he's out from under the most important part of the case, obviously. And I think there could still be an appeal to the highest appeals court in New York, the Court of Appeals, where they will deal with the question that seems to have vexed the appellate division, which is the whole merits of the case and whether Letitia James, the Attorney General in New York State, should have been able to use a consumer protection statute that had never been used in this way to try to establish a fraud case based on sophisticated financial actors, where, this is not a situation that a consumer protection statute was ever meant to apply to. So I guess this individual, Annie McCarthy, he believes that not just the penalty is going to get waived, he thinks the entire thing is going to be thrown out. So that's really interesting. Miss Justice with a $10 super chat. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Her and Fonnie rushing to their own demise, pride before destruction. Let it happen. Yeah, Fonnie is totally destroyed with so many different issues. Just the fact that that whole Fulton County is full of corruption and incompetence. I think Letitia James and you can say Trump is a very personal issue. They both have said very nasty things to each other. Both believe they're saving the world. So this is going to go back and forth. But the problem is with Letitia James is she went out her way to prosecute someone that she was doing the same thing for decades. Yes, in a smaller level, obviously. She's not running multiple properties. But the fact that she manipulated the real estate, manipulated loan applications, manipulated even her own coworkers by signing things, saying at one point, I declared I'm not going to live this place. Then another statement, she declares that she is going to live in Virginia as a primary resident, even though you are the Attorney General for New York. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So she is going after people when she did the same thing. And if you got to keep your house clean. So appreciate the super chat. I would think there are caps in place on the amount of penalties. I would assume so as well, but the fact that because we're saying, or Trump is saying, I'm a billionaire, that
I don't know. To me, $500 million seems to be a bit much. I know that a lot of people do complain when corporations do lose and they get fined. The fines are so small that most corporations can just pay it, and that was just a cost of doing business. So whatever they did wrong, they already made so much money on the back end. Paying a small fine is nothing. But $500 million is not a small amount, especially when you're not. Yeah, Trump, you can say corporation, but he is a brand. Trump is a brand, right? It's not the same as Apple. Apple could take a $500 million hit and a fine. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. It's not the same, at least in my opinion. Yes, Kenny, and I forgot. Claimed her dad was a husband. She says it's a mistake. There's too many mistakes here, Letitia James. So I will predict in the next few weeks, she's probably gonna get an indictment as well. Check out the rest of this video.
And Andy, we're just getting some new reaction in from the White House right now. If we can pull this up, this is from Trump spokesman Stephen Chung saying, quote, Letitia James' political crusade against President Trump, which is barred by the statute of limitations, and where she ludicrously valued Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach, Florida, as worth a paltry $18 million, as well as committed a ton of other fatal errors, is just another failed skirmish in the discredited lawfare campaign against President Trump, his family, and his business that other Democrat prosecutors are dropping left and right. Andy, real quick, final word to you. Letitia James was sitting in the front of that courtroom every day smirking, and looks like she lost today.
She lost, but I think, Bill, Trump is president because of lawfare. And I think this was just one, it was a big part of it, but it was just one part of an overarching campaign in which Trump actually won sympathy from even people who weren't particularly sympathetic to him to begin with, but who saw if this could be done to him, it could be done to anyone.
That's a good point. And I just wish we all can kind of calm down, but, you know, that's not going to happen, especially between these two. And Letitia James also has dozens and dozens of lawsuits against the Trump administration. So this is not going to end anytime soon.